Hello everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying locked to Breakfast Central. It is now time for us to get into a conversation in The Impact today, which is all about the danger of single-use plastic. And of course, this is all about the conversation around how we're treating our environment. So there's plenty of conversation about climate change and pollution, and the warnings are not falling on deaf ears as groups and individuals are taking up the responsibility to ensure a safe and healthy environment. Of course, one of those notable issues that is currently very top of discussion, not just globally, also in Africa, is plastic usage. And it's a very essential part of daily living, from drinking bottles to storage containers, especially in Africa, especially in Nigeria. But the use of plastics as single-use items is not only a wasteful practice, but a major source of environmental and marine litter. So the UN Environmental reports that just 9% of the world's 9 billion tons of plastic has been recycled. Now, most of our plastic ends up in landfills, in the oceans, and in waterways. Now, also keep in mind that plastics don't biodegrade. So instead, they slowly break down into smaller pieces of plastic called microplastics, having a far greater reach of contamination than their size would ever indicate. I'm incredibly excited to be joined by Emodi, who's a television host and the lead ambassador of the Foundation for the Elimination of Single-Use Plastic, known as ESOP Now. It's a non-profit grassroots advocacy organization focused on national policies to address and end plastic pollution. What a mouthful.
I know, right? Welcome. That's why we just, limited it to ESOP Now.
Right.
To be able to pronounce. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to have this conversation, and, coming from a media background and, becoming passionate about, single usage plastic, to be specific.
Yeah.
How do these two worlds connect, or how?
Well, I would say that because of my personality, I don't know, maybe because of my training as a lawyer, I'm a natural advocate. I'm passionate about things. So whatever I find my hands doing, I do with so much passion. So I remember I'd been an ambassador for other NGOs. I was an ambassador for She Rights Women, where we talked about mental health, for work against rape. And whenever I find myself in such situations, I take it very personally. So when this opportunity came, before it came, I had been speaking, I had some environmentalists on my show, and I would always share ideas with them and tell them, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Work with this. You need influencers in this day and age for your message to be heard, because if the influencers are not talking about it, unfortunately, young people might not be interested. So, the opportunity came, someone started the foundation and thought, I need a face for it. Is this something you'd be interested in? I said, absolutely. And I jumped on it, and I was so excited. And what this did for me was, or what I did for the foundation, was the fact that I already had a voice, I already had a platform. It was easier for me to be able to translate the message and for people to listen. Because before then, unfortunately, Nigerians are not so excited about conversations surrounding the environment. But we're starting to warm up. There have been people doing things about, eco-friendly campaigns, and I'm really honored to have joined this conversation.
And that's my next line of thinking is, besides sort of the 1%, where you go into certain restaurants and you do see paper straws now and so forth, which of course is only just the tip of the iceberg. Generally, if you're buying from an eatery somewhere in Nigeria, there's plastic involved. Supermarket, there's plastic. From the time you wake up till the time you go to sleep at night, there's been single-use plastic as well involved. So, what is the state of, Nigerian, the average Nigerian citizen, their perspective on the use? Do they realize it's harmful? Do they care?
Okay, so I'll be very frank with you. A lot of the time when they talk about plastic in Nigeria, people say, oh, recycle. But why we don't focus on recycling is because according to a UN Environment report in 2018 stated that only 9% of the world's plastic is being recycled. So what happens to the remaining 91%? It ends in the landfills, it ends in the seas, clogging the drainages as well. So people don't really, yes, we've been having conversations about recycling, but we know that honestly, it's not really a Nigerian culture. Not a lot of people have imbibed the culture of recycling. And then we said, okay, what exactly is the problem? Single-use plastic. So before we started doing what we're doing, I don't think I ever saw any of the other organizations speaking much about single-use plastic and talking about the harm to the environment. Thankfully, I would say that since we started seeing impact. I mean, I see people who run into me on the road and maybe they were holding a PET bottle before, and the moment they see me, they say, say no to single-use plastic. This happened just 2 days ago. I get messages of people saying, no, I bought a water dispenser in my house because of your message. So they are starting to catch on, but we have a long way to go, absolutely, because we're sort of stuck with the convenience. We're enjoying the convenience that plastic brings. But unfortunately, this convenience that it brings, it's our own problem. That's where the problem in itself begins.
So if there's a culture of the convenience and if recycling isn't in our DNA, then what are the solutions?
Okay, as much as I wouldn't totally kick out recycling, for me, the way I see it is I always say that recycling is like treating a symptom as opposed to treating the root cause of the problem. So if you have a malaria and you start taking painkillers because you have a headache is a symptom of the malaria, but you're taking painkillers, the painkillers only treat the headache, but it doesn't treat the root problem, which is malaria. So you go to the doctor prescribes and gives you a proper treatment plan, and all the medication will then include painkillers for the malaria. So recycling, I see it as a way to treat one of the symptoms. Now we're flooded with plastic. We have much more plastic than we can ever use. If we encourage people to recycle the already made plastic, we might have a chance. But the major problem would be that we actually need to ban single-use plastic. Now, we're not going to be the first. There are many countries around the world. Thankfully, Africa has taken the lead when it comes to banning single-use plastic. We're seeing we have more countries in Africa than in any other continent that have responded to banning single-use plastic, and it could come in the form of paper bags or bottles, which are the most commonly abused single-use plastic a lot of the time. Because take, for instance, we're about 20 million in Lagos, and everybody has to drink a bottle of fizzy drink or water every day. Imagine having like 20 million bottles every day. If you go to Victoria Island, there's a canal on that just at Adeogun Road. If you look underneath the canal, it is full of plastic bottles. I did a video of it, and it's just so terrible. So,
and how much of this is a littering problem? Because especially when you look at a city like Lagos, there's a massive problem with littering. And how much overlapping happens with these issues? Because yes, the world is reducing use of plastic, but also, there's the other communities that are more disciplined with, this is where I put
my
this
plastic
when I'm done with it. Whereas here there's sort of, you see a lot more discarding and littering and so forth. So is there any narrative in that direction? Or before we go to let's ban it totally, because I'd like to believe that we're still a long way from that.
Let's hope that we're not a long way. Okay, so that littering question is a very good question. What I would say littering, teaching us to have a better culture to littering would help with regards to teaching people how to sort their trash. Unfortunately, we're still having conversations about telling people not to fling out their bottles from their car whilst driving. But if people were taught to, or if people were encouraged to properly discard of their trash, sort out their trash, then these can be recycled. However, regardless of how you dispose your plastic cannot break down. Plastic only further breaks down to microplastic, which cannot be absorbed by the earth. If it is absorbed, it goes down to contaminate our water, it contaminates our soil, it ends in the fish and kills the fishes. According to a report, by 2050 we'll have more plastic in the ocean than fishes. So there's so much damage that does. Why we advocate for ban? We're not so far from banning, actually. In 2018, there was a plastic bag prohibition bill that was signed by the House of Representatives, I think on the 21st of March. And basically it was to put sanctions for people who produced, used, or imported, or basically had any business to do with plastic bags. In other countries, there are really three ways to regulate it. So it's either a total ban that totally says we can't use this, or a partial ban that maybe bans only plastic bags and not PET bottles, or imposing economic taxes. So you say if you have to use this plastic bag, you will pay more. Now we've seen many countries. I know, for example, in Namibia, if you want to shop from these supermarkets, a lot of them will tell you that you have to pay extra if you have to use plastic
Zimbabwe,
bags.
South Africa.
Exactly. And even in Kenya, it's actually a criminal offense to be caught using plastic bags. Was eventually became a crime in 2017, if I'm correct. So there are many countries that have done these things. Why can't Nigeria do it? We call ourselves the giant of Africa. We should imitate other countries. Rwanda has done fantastic with that. You can't even cross their airports with plastic bags. So why are we doing this to ourselves? So where we are right now is creating awareness. People need to know why it's a problem so that when eventually the government decides to do something about it, we're not murmuring. Let's start now. Let's start to create awareness about it, and eventually the government can then say, okay, from so date, plastic bags or plastic bottles are no longer allowed. Before then, people can then start to look for alternatives. We had a life before plastic. Plastic only developed in 1950s. What were we doing before that?
What were we doing before then? I mean, but we also ask ourselves, did we have such a Insta culture before that? Because it seems everything is so fast-paced now, and we're all about consuming in the moment. But, back to awareness. So you did the walk against plastic pollution.
Yes.
That was a beach cleanup on the 25th of January. How did that go?
It was amazing.
What's the response? How are I know you say, the government, there's talks and so forth, but what's the reaction like, the response when you do come together as a community for, such an initiative?
Yes. So the Walk Against Plastic Pollution held on 25th day of January, and we had it in conjunction with an organization called Reswaye, that's Recycling Scheme for Women and Youth Empowerment. And we used the Kids Beach Garden because it afforded us the opportunity to meet up there, have conversations, do a cleanup before we go on the actual walk. Now, having these people come together was very important for us because we needed some people came because they were curious. They hated seeing plastic around, but they didn't know what to do about it. So the people that came there had to learn about plastic pollution, what they can do, what are the alternatives to plastic. We had a very interesting conversations like who is to blame, the government, the manufacturers, or the consumers. So we had very deep conversations about plastic pollution, practical steps on what we can do, shared our challenges, even trying to plan for the event. We had challenges trying to get plastic-free produce, plastic-free products, because everybody's packaging their goods in plastic. Course, we had sandwiches. We had to go and buy paper sandwich packs so that they would put our sandwich in paper packs. So there were so many challenges we found. There were some that would still come in plastic bags because we've gotten, our culture has gotten so used to plastic. But it was great. We had the 43rd Miss Nigeria join us. We had Miss Human Rights Progress International, and these queens joined us to further amplify our voices. So we had a walk, we stopped, we had conversations with the people. The locals were asking us, so I have so much plastic in my house, what am I going to do with it? We said, well, the ones you already have, maybe you should recycle. We give them a number for our partners who are into recycling, that they recycle. But what we are trying to say is, from now on, find a way to cut down your plastic footprint. It's not about buying more plastic and filling your house with more plastic. Cut down your plastic footprint. And the ones you already have, hand them over to the recycling organizations. And,
because not everybody is going to go to the recycling organizations, what are some of the things that we can actually do with the plastic we have at home? I'm pretty sure I'm in line with most African households when I say there's a cupboard, two cupboards.
Yes.
One like this with containers, the other one with plastic bags.
Yes.
If you don't have a bag,
are you really African?
Exactly.
Are you Nigerian?
You're not. You're not.
So
It's African. Even in Zimbabwe, you must have the plastic bags. What do we do with them?
So what we try
besides
to say,
going to the organizations,
sometimes these organizations actually come to pick up. The problem is because there's not a lot of information out there. So with the plastic that you already have, try your best to use them over and over again. As much as, so we're not encouraging you to buy more.
Here's us finding more stew inside the ice cream container.
Exactly, just find some use for it. I have a friend who, whenever she finishes drinking her sachet water, if she uses it to make plants. She uses it as a little pot plant.
Oh, lovely.
In her house. So she plants flowers in her house. So just find alternative uses, so you don't just use it once and throw it away, as much as possible. And then also it's important that we have conversations about how we can intentionally reduce our plastic footprint. And one of the ways is, I carry this around. This is a reusable water bottle. I carry this around. Now the thing is, if I come to your office and I'm thirsty and you have a water dispenser in your office, I have a water dispenser in my house. At the bank, there's a water dispenser. In our churches, there are water dispensers. All I need to do is carry my bottle around, and I can always fetch and have a drink.
It's so bad because I have 2 water bottles in my bag now.
No, but it's okay. Baby steps. I'm hoping that from here on we can start to make
aware of it.
Exactly. A lot of us, I even back in the day, I used to have a lot of plastic myself. It's all about information. When the information is available to you, then you start to make change. I've made some errors. It's still a struggle, to be honest, because we become so dependent on plastic.
Certainly.
So if people can have water dispensers in their house, some people would even say that, it's too expensive to get the whole water dispenser. Buy the bottle, buy a manual pump. When you use the manual pump, it reduces the cost of having to buy the full water dispenser machine. We also have tips like when you go out to eat, rather than ordering takeout, sit down and eat. Because when you order takeout, you buy these 15 naira takeaway packs or the styrofoam packs that you're going to throw up in your bin anyway, and then they end up in the ocean. So there's just little tips and tricks. We oftentimes share them on our social media, how people can be able to reduce their plastic footprint.
What is your social media page?
At End Single Use Plastic NG on Instagram. So End Single Use Plastic NG on Instagram. ESUP Now on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And we have a website where we put articles to encourage, educate people on how they can reduce their plastic footprint. And that's www.esupnow.org. That's isupnow.org.
And as we round up, what are the plans for this year? You've already kicked off on a high note, with the beach cleanup, and obviously plans for awareness are in full effect. What are some of the things that you'll be, getting involved in throughout the rest of the year to ensure that you don't lose the momentum that you're already kicked off with?
Thank you very much. I'm really glad that you asked, and we're very open to accepting volunteers. So people who want to be a part of the organization, join us. The more, the merrier. I feel like when there's strength in numbers, it takes a community, it takes a full village. So like the last time that we had these queens and we had the Dream Catchers Dance Academy join us, we had the numbers, but we can do more. We would have more walks, we'd have school tours. We want to have an art exhibition to basically talk about, we're in talks with a young artist and photographer, and we're looking at collaborating with him to doing an art project that basically pushes out the message about plastic pollution. We're taking it to schools, taking it to churches, as much as we can. So I believe that if I can enlighten you, you enlighten someone else in your space, the message keeps spreading. So people should come learn and then seek out any opportunity to share this information with people within their circle as much as possible. So please, we're open to accepting volunteers. Follow us on Instagram at @SingleUsePlasticNG, and these are some of our plans. There's more that would come up as the year unfolds.
And lobbying government from the policy perspective?
Exactly.
What are some of the plans?
We actually are sending letters to organizations that have been basically chief pollutants or chief culprits. Those who are very involved in plastic pollution, whether they know it directly or I'm sure they do know.
FMCGs.
Exactly, of course they do. So we're
yeah.
sending them proper letters to let them know, and then at some point we'll start to call them out on social media. We're hoping that when we start to do that, people will lend their voices, because these organizations also have a role to play. Yes, the government has a role to play in terms of putting laws in place.
Environment,
exactly. We have the plastic bag prohibition bill. What is happening to the plastic bag prohibition bill? We haven't heard anything about it since last year when the House of Reps passed it. We need to have conversations about that. Let them put this into law. Let manufacturers take, because the manufacturers are pushing the blame to the consumers, but it is what is in the market that the consumers would buy.
Of course,
but they will tell you that
cycle.
Exactly, they will tell you that the consumers have to that so long as the consumers keep demanding that, they would keep supplying, but the manufacturers have a role to play. So we're saying to manufacturers, cut down your plastic footprint. You know, government, do your part. We're going to be calling them out. We're going to be sending letters. We're going to serve as
call out season.
Conscience. Exactly. We're not even playing. We're going to serve as the conscience to remind them that we need to do better.
All right, we certainly do need to do better. I, for one, won't mind going back to an era where I take my glass bottle for my deposit.
Exactly. And it can even be cheaper. You can put incentives and tell people when you come back to shop with your reusable bottle, would give you certain discount. They do it in several countries. Of course, Thailand started this year, 2020, 1st of January, they banned shopping bags. So you should see the creative ways. There were videos and photos.
I did see that. It went viral. It was hilarious.
Exactly. It was hilarious. But along the line, they will get used to it.
True.
So imagine a Nigerian going to Rwanda. Now you have to start thinking of how to remove every plastic bag in your bag. We need to emulate other countries that are doing the right thing as well. Let's improve our reputation. We're doing well, but we can do better. And it's not just for us, it's for the environment, and it's also for our health. Yeah. Because we find out that we are indirectly eating plastic.
Yeah, of course.
The fishes eat the plastic. The fishes land in our food. Cooking them does not kill the plastic in the fish. And somehow we're ingesting plastic. And another report showed that there was plastic, little bits of microplastic found in tap water. So it's not even healthy for us.
It's not at all. Wow. Okay. The consequences are dire, so we need to act now. Olive, thank you so much for this. I love your passion for this project. I wish you all the best, and I hope we can meet on the same day next year
and see the milestones.
Exactly, and be able to say, well, look at how far we've come, and I have faith that you certainly will achieve a lot. Wonderful. So make sure you follow ESUP Now on all social media platforms. Visit the website esupnow.org as well to get all the information you need. Let's all volunteer in our own little way. How about we do that?
To watch more videos just like this, make sure you subscribe right here, and of course check out more videos right here.